Hey everyone, today I'm reviewing the Huion Kamvas Pro 16 2.5K. This is one of two pen displays Huion has released on the 5th of January 2022. The other model is the Huion Kamvas Pro 13 2.5K. 2.5K is just, the resolution is actually 1440p. Official retail prices for the big and small models are US $599 and $399. This review may be a bit long, so if you want to save time, you can check out the text review that I have already written. The link is in the video description below, or you can use the timestamps provided to jump to different sections of this video. First of all, a disclaimer, this is a review unit provided by Huion, which is why I'm able to make this early review for you guys. I'm just going to present to you my findings and you can decide whether or not this is worth the money. Just to give you the bottom line up front, this is a well-designed pen display that looks good, has solid build quality, fantastic drawing performance, has Adobe RGB coverage, so the color accuracy is pretty good. I don't have any issues with the hardware. However, there are some minor glitches with the driver. Let's look at the items included in the box. All these items were packed very securely and neatly in the box. So there is a microfiber cleaning cloth, one artist glove, the quick start guide, the pen stand and the pen. This is the Huion ST200 stand, a 1 meter long USB-C to C cable. This is a 1.5 meter long 3 to 2 cable. On this side there is a full-size HDMI, USB Type-A for data, and if your computer cannot provide enough power to power the pen display, you need to connect this USB Type-A to a power outlet. This will go to the pen display. These are two power extension cables. This one is for USB Type-A, this is 1.5 meters long, and this is for USB Type-C, this is 1 meter long. This is the USB power adapter. You can choose the pin appropriate for your country on the ordering page. This is the Huion PW517 pen, which uses Pen Tech 3. It supports tilt and slightly over 8,000 levels of pressure sensitivity. It's a good looking pen with solid build quality, has a good weight to it, and it's comfortable to hold. The rubber grip is quite big and it attracts dust quite easily. There are two customizable side buttons with good clicking feedback. The pen nib has minimal movement to it. It doesn't go in and out. Inside the pen stand, there are 10 replacement nibs. 5 are plastic nibs and 5 are the felt nibs. These felt nibs will provide a very nice tactile drawing experience, and these are replaceable and sold separately if you need to replace them. And that's the nib remover. There is no mention on Huion's website whether these felt nibs are compatible with older Huion pens, so at the time of this review, these pen nibs are only compatible with the Huion PW517 pen. This pen is not powered by battery, so no charging is required. This is how the pen display looks when you take it out of the box. This sticker tells you to remove the plastic protector, and this sticker tells you how to connect the 3 to 2 cable. You have to connect it this way, not this way. This is how the Huion Kamvas Pro 16 2.5K looks. This surface is matte glass. This is not a matte screen protector, and this is how the anti-glare looks. This is a nice looking design. This area here is glossy. There are 8 physical shortcut buttons here on the side which are customizable. We have rounded corners and beveled edges. On the back, this feels like metal. It's quite cold to the touch. The surface is matte textured. There are 4 rubber feet. On the left side here, near where the shortcut buttons are, there are 2 USB-C ports which are labeled. This is for USB-C video and data, and this is for power. And at the top here, we have the power button and the power light indicator. The build quality is very solid, so this product definitely looks and feels very premium. If you are a left-handed user, you can turn this around, and if you are using the 3 to 2 cable, the cable will point downwards. If you have the pen display on the stand at the highest angle, the cable will bend slightly here. I'm not sure if this is going to affect the cable quality in the future. Anyway, the cable is quite thick, so there should be no problem. The cable at the top will bend even more. This looks like a better design compared to the earlier models. There is no movement at all. This is very tight. This is the Huion ST200 stand. It's quite thin in its collapsed form. The back is made with plastic. There are 4 rubber feet with good grip on the table. And this support is made with metal. There are 2 big pieces of rubber on the sides. To deploy the stand, you have to push the plastic part down to release the metal base so that you can prop this up. And you can deploy this at several angles. These 3 angles with the short plate here, these 3 angles are not very different, so it's best to use the slot at the outer edge so that you get more support. And this is the higher angle. It's definitely quite stable because the base is quite big. You can push this part down so that you get a latch, and there is a big piece of rubber here as well for you to rest the pen display. This latch here is actually quite short, but the rubber has very good grip with the base of the pen display, so this is definitely not going to slip off. I feel like I have to mention that because there was an earlier Kamvas model where the base of the pen display was beveled so much that it could actually slip off the latch. But it seems like this new design has solved that issue. I've just connected the pen display to my laptop using the 3-to-2 cable, and I've tried the USB-C cable as well, and surprisingly this laptop and this MacBook Air are both able to drive the display at maximum brightness, 100% brightness. Thankfully, the cable split is long enough to go to both sides of my laptop because my HDMI is here and USB is there. And this USB for additional power is not necessary in this case. It's better to use USB-C because it minimizes cable clutter. That, by the way, is my own USB-C cable. However, if your computer cannot provide enough power to the pen display, you will have to attach additional power to it. Colors on this pen display look good out of the box. The colors are very vibrant. I have already color calibrated the display and I measured a maximum brightness of 158 nits. Color support for 99% sRGB, 91% NTSC, 97% ODB RGB, and 89% P3. This is how the anti-glare looks on the matte textured glass surface. And this is how it looks without any reflections on the display. Huion mentions color support for 145% sRGB. My color calibrator can't measure beyond 100%. Anyway, color accuracy is fantastic and view angles are pretty good. You can view the display from extreme angles and the color shift and brightness drop is very minimal. This is an 8-bit panel that supports 16.7 million colors. Huion is using QLED for the LCD lighting. So this display is 15.8 inches diagonal and the resolution is 2560 by 1440. If you run the display at its native resolution without any scaling, the icons, the text, the UI elements are going to look quite small. Without any scaling, I personally find the text to be too small. On the right side, I have a 15.6-inch LCD with 1080p resolution. Pixelation is noticeable on this LCD display. On the left side is the Huion pen display with 1440p resolution and user interface scale up to 200% to get the 1080p workspace. Here the pixelation is less noticeable. It just so happens that I have a 15.6-inch 4K display as well, which is on the right side. So that's how sharp and detailed the visuals can look. There is absolutely no pixelation noticeable on the 4K display. Now on the Huion display, with a side-by-side comparison, I can see slight pixelation. For me, the increase in sharpness and detail from 1080p to 1440p is more noticeable compared to 1440p to 4K. So if you don't really need 4K, you can actually save a lot of money by just going with the 1440p model. At the time of making this video, the Huion Kamvas Pro 16 4K is US $829, whereas the Kamvas Pro 16 2.5K or 1440p, it's $200 over lower. And the two 1080p models are the Kamvas 16, which is US $399, and the Kamvas Pro 16 $469. When the 4K model came out, it was quite pricey. It's still quite pricey, and many artists actually prefer to have a display that has a resolution higher than 1080p. So now you have the option, the 1440p model between 1080p and 4K. 1440p on a 15.8-inch display is a fantastic combination. I say that because I have been using this laptop with rather similar display size with 1440p for many months, and I really enjoy the resolution on this display. Another thing to note is 1440p is not going to require as much graphics power from your graphics card compared to running 4K resolution. Most computers from the recent years will be able to run 4K resolution, no problem. But the thing is, with 1080p and 1440p resolution, those resolutions will not stress your computer at all. The display is laminated, so when you are drawing, it's going to look as if there is no gap between the pen tip and the line beneath. Now the front part of this pen is quite big, it's bulbous, so at certain angles it can actually block the view of the pen tip. So if Huion can actually make the front part of the pen more tapered, that would be terrific. Cursor tracking is generally quite accurate regardless of whether you're holding the pen vertically or at an angle. Even at the extreme right edge, cursor tracking is quite accurate. So here I can click on that tiny little arrow very easily, and here as well. At the extreme left edge, the cursor will stray a few pixels to the left. I'm not sure if you can see it. Here there is no cursor offset, but here the cursor moves slightly to the left. Anyway, I can still click on these icons very easily. When I hold the pen with my left hand, cursor tracking will be very accurate on the left side. However, when I move to the right side, I can see the cursor stray a few pixels to the right. This 15.8-inch display is a very comfortable size to work with, and this is how big the display is compared to an A4 size paper pad. You can see the display is much wider, slightly shorter compared to A4 size paper. And with the palettes on the left and right side, the drawing area remaining is slightly more than A5 size. So this is a very good size to work with. And now let's see what you can do with the OSD. So to call up the OSD, just press and hold the power button for a few seconds. You can adjust the settings using the pen. So this is very convenient, but this is not a touch screen, so you can't use your finger. So these are the different modes. We have the native, gaming, movie, user. You can adjust the brightness, contrast, and saturation. Here you can adjust the color temperature, and here you can choose the different color modes: native, sRGB, Adobe RGB. Some settings that you choose may lock other settings. So if you choose Adobe RGB, it's going to lock contrast and saturation. Here you can only change brightness. Let's see what the driver can do. This is the Windows driver. The Mac OS driver should have similar functionality. So this is where you can customize the 8 physical shortcut buttons on the side. You can set your own keyboard shortcut, assign a mouse function, switch display or switch screen or switch brush, run programs and apps, You can have multimedia control. For precision mode, this will allow you to move the cursor much slower so that you can draw with precision. And this is pen and scroll. Under working area, this is where you can change the mapping. The default mapping should work. And if you are a left-handed user, you can change the orientation here to 180 degrees. For monitor calibration, you will only need this if for some reason the cursor is not aligned to the bottom of the pen tip. If there is cursor offset, you will need to calibrate your monitor. From what I can see, the cursor is directly beneath the pen tip, so I don't need to calibrate it. Under digital pen, this is where you can customize the two side buttons on the pen. I always have one button set to switch screens so that I can move the cursor from the pen display to my laptop and back again with the click of this button, and it works really well. If you are using Windows and for some reason pressure sensitivity is not working, you may have to toggle Windows Ink on or off. By the way, the noise that you hear in the background is the rain hitting my windows. This is where you can customize the pressure sensitivity curve. There are 3 control points for you to move around, which is great because some drivers, they just give you that slider to adjust pressure, or some drivers only have one control point for adjusting the curve. So having 3 control points here give you finer adjustments to the curve. And they have some presets as well. For some reason, the pressure test doesn't work. It's a glitch, definitely. But thankfully, the pressure curve does work. I've tested that. With this driver, you can also create shortcut sets for specific apps. So for example, you can create a shortcut set for Photoshop, another group of shortcuts for Illustrator. You just have to add the different programs here. If you happen to buy the Huion KD100 key dial, it's also using the same driver. You just have to go to the bottom here, click here to switch to the key dial, and here you can set the keyboard shortcuts for all these buttons and the dial here. This, by the way, is sold separately for $49 US. If you buy it bundled with the pen display, it's $39 US. I'm a keyboard shortcut person, so my hand is always on the keyboard. So I don't actually use the shortcut buttons here on the side. They do work well, I just don't use them, and I also don't use this. Time for some line quality test. This is the initial activation force. Time for some line quality test. This is the initial activation force. I can draw thin lines quite easily. This is how thick the brush really is. It's actually not easy to maintain consistent pressure when you are drawing with very minimal pressure. But the initial activation force definitely is very low. This is how the lines taper, and they taper very nicely, very gradually, very smoothly. Line transition from thin to thick is very smooth. This is the diagonal line jitter test. So I'm trying to draw these diagonal lines as slowly as I can. I don't see any wobble or jitter. So this performance is pretty good. Let's see if we can maintain consistent pressure to draw lines with consistent width. Thicker and thinner, and thicker again, thin again. Drawing dots. You can get pressure with dots as well. Let's draw something very quickly while I talk more about the overall drawing experience. By the way, I've switched over to using the felt nib because this provides slightly more texture when drawing on the glass surface. But the drawing experience isn't exactly paper-like. It's still quite smooth. The hard plastic nib will be even smoother. If you have used those pen tablets, those pen tablets without any displays, the texture here is very similar to those pen tablets. The pen is quite sensitive, so I can draw thin lines very easily. This pen has low initial activation force, and it's quite sensitive when you are drawing with minimal pressure. There are pens with low initial activation force, however, when you are drawing thin lines or when you're drawing with very light pressure, those pens are not able to handle or detect those very small pressure changes. But this pen, it's very sensitive. You can detect those very small pressure changes. And because cursor tracking is accurate, I can draw lines like this without the line overshooting. Let's draw a bit faster. 15.8 inch is a really comfortable size to work with. This pen display is also released in 13.3 inch, which is US $399 if I remember correctly. So that's $200 lower compared to this model. Between 13.3 inch versus 15.3 inch, in terms of value for money, I would say the smaller model, the US $339 model, is more worth the money simply because it's cheaper. But if you have the budget, then, well, at least now you have the option of a 1440p 15 or 16 inch display. I have heard complaints about the cursor moving away when you are holding the pen at different angles. I don't experience that with this particular pen. I can hold this at any angle I want, and the cursor will always be directly beneath the pen tip. More specifically, the cursor will always be at the contact point of the pen tip. This pen display is definitely great for line art, and since it's great for line art, you can definitely use this for digital painting. This is the Flinders Street railway station in Melbourne. I've actually drawn this before for another tablet review. The difference between drawing on a pen display versus on a tablet is with a pen display you get more accuracy. The pen is usually more sensitive with pen displays. I actually kind of regret picking this subject to draw for this review because this is so detailed. Even when I'm drawing in a very sketchy manner, it's still quite a challenge to draw this. Let me draw a small car here. Because this pen display doesn't have finger gestures, sometimes I still find myself using finger gestures on it. I have tried pen displays with finger gestures and they just don't work as well compared to finger gestures on iPads or Samsung tablets. Let's add some colors. Let me just use a really big brush. Let me delete the sky. There are actually some office blocks in the background. I can't remember if I have mentioned anything about the color noise or the grain that is introduced by the matte textured surface, but there is definitely color noise. That's the compromise if you want to have a textured drawing surface. If you have more texture, you will have more color noise and grain. If you want better visual quality, then the surface has to be smoother, but then you won't have the tactile drawing experience. I think the texture here is a good compromise in terms of the tactile drawing experience and the visual quality. This is actually not easy to color because there are so many little details. You know what, let me just cheat and use my artistic license to just color this. If you use your laptop to power the pen display, it's going to drain the laptop battery really quickly. The battery life for my laptop is around 10 hours. With the pen display connected, I can get 2 to 3 hours, so that's a huge drop in battery life. This sketch is coming along quite nicely. I actually thought this is going to be a disaster, but it actually looks alright. I'm quite pleased with this sketch. I may need to put some shadows on the ground as well. Perhaps the shadow is too dark. Yeah, I think this should work. Maybe slightly darker. So this is the drawing performance you can expect with other drawing apps. I've tested Affinity Photo, Krita, Clip Studio, Medibank Paint Pro, and they all work really well. I did experience some glitches though with Photoshop. Pressure sensitivity didn't work with Photoshop on Windows initially. It's now working fine because I had to create this PS user config file and save that file with some specific setting into this specific folder to enable Windows Ink to work properly. So that managed to fix my problem and everything is great now. But pressure sensitivity did not work with Adobe Illustrator on macOS and I don't have a solution for that. Next glitch, tilt and pressure do not work with Krita version 4.4.7 and version 5 on Windows. Tilt and pressure sensitivity works fine with Krita on macOS. The tilt brush cursor can follow the direction of the pen, and tilt can work right up to the edge of the display. Tilt works just fine with Photoshop, so you can see the shape of the cursor actually follows the direction of the pen, and now the cursor is vertical, 45 degrees, horizontal. Tilt works quite well with Photoshop. So I've been working on this pen display for a few hours now at maximum brightness and it doesn't produce much heat. The only area where it's slightly warmer is this area at the top, but even so it's not as hot compared to my handphone charging. So this is definitely something you can work on for long periods of time without feeling any discomfort from heat. Alright, to conclude, I really enjoyed drawing on the Huion Kamvas Pro 16 2.5K. The increase in resolution from 1080p to 1440p is very noticeable, and overall this is just a really well designed product. It looks good, has solid build quality, fantastic color support, it has Adobe RGB color support, it has fantastic drawing performance. The drawing performance is consistent and it's predictable. The pen is surprisingly accurate and sensitive. I don't really have much negative things to say about the hardware. On the software and driver side, I hope Huion can update the driver to resolve the issues with Krita on Windows where for some reason pressure and tilt just don't work, but they work with Krita on macOS, and there is no pressure sensitivity with Adobe Illustrator on macOS. I don't have any fixes for those driver or software issues. If you know how to fix those issues, share with me and others in the comment section below. So is this worth the money? Is this worth US $599 and the 13-inch model $399? You can decide based on the findings that I have presented. But one thing I'm very sure is if you have the budget for this, I'm very confident that you will be very satisfied with the size and resolution combination because it's really satisfying to work on 1440p. One last thing before you go, if you have the intention to buy this, consider using the affiliate links that I have for you in the video description below. So that's it. If you guys have any further questions regarding this pen display, let me know in the comment section below. See you guys in the next video. Bye!